Welcome, folks, to episode 208 of the Morgue, the official Corpsefeed podcast. And I am Arturo Padilla, the guy behind the face. And with me always is Mr. Nick Valdez. Tex, we are busy today, my man.
Oh, buddy, sure. Well, I mean, we sure are. So let's just jump right into the coming attractions because no time to waste. So first is Alien has a new TV show coming. I had no idea. This was kind of like a little nice little surprise. We got the
Yeah.
teaser for Alien Earth, a
Alien
new
Earth.
show. It's going to be one of those FX on Hulu shows, like What We Do in the Shadows and stuff like that. So like it's going to go straight to streaming. So like I have
I'm
no idea what to
down.
expect, but I'm down, right? Yeah, like let's
Funny
do it.
enough, like I saw the title of this show when Romulus came out. A lot of like social platforms, not platforms, a lot of social feeds are putting out timelines, right? Of
Right.
of of the universe. And on that timeline, I saw Alien Earth, and I'm like, "Fuck is that?" like
Yeah,
what
I
is
thought it
that?
was
Like
like some
I'm like
like
Alien
some
Earth.
like short.
I'm like
It
I
sounds
don't.
like a comic or something, right?
Yeah,
Like
I'm
that
like I
we
don't
would
think
have
that's a
missed.
video
Yeah.
game or anything. But why would they put it on the cinematic timeline, right? So
Right.
apparently, from what I understand, Alien Earth takes place before the original Alien as well. Like
Okay. Okay.
I think something along the lines 30 to 50 years before the events of the Nostromo and all that stuff. So I am excited because this was something that I actually had a conversation with my son, and because he's obsessed with Alien Romulus this, Alien Romulus that, right?
Nice. Yeah.
So it's really awesome, proud parent, very good. And then he goes like, "Dad, like, if they made another sequel to Alien, what would you want?" And I'm like, "Damn, that's a good
That's a
question."
yeah,
I'm
that's
like,
a
"That's a
great
really good
question.
question, man,"
Yeah.
because a lot of things have been done. So I told him, I'm like, "You know what? Um, I know Alien versus Predator Requiem had stuff on Earth, right? But I think
Right.
a proper like xenomorph infestation on Earth would be something dope." And then this thing comes out, and I'm like, "Look at that, Alien Earth."
Yeah.
So I am hoping that we do get some kind of some cool action, right? This takes place after Prometheus and Covenant, and from the the short synopsis that I read, it has to do with that black goo and that kind of research and all that stuff. So, um, let's hope this is
Let's see what
good.
happens,
Yeah, let's
right?
hope this
Yeah,
is
like
watchable, dude. Yeah, legit.
yeah.
I'm excited. I love everything Alien. As you guys know, I'm a huge Alien fan. I love my xenomorphs. I just love that monster and that creature. And I really do hope it does justice on a TV series format.
Right, right. So moving on on the ticket. So we have the first teaser for a Minecraft movie, which is that's the official title of this thing.
A
Um
Minecraft movie.
it's looking fake. Like I like there's no other like way I could put this. Like I'm looking at the you look at the teaser, right? And it's like, oh, is this like a it looks like you'd make fun of a movie, right? Like you'd
Yeah.
make fun of the fact that this was an idea for a movie, and this would be the trailer you would see in another movie, right? Like this, that's what this it gives me that vibe. Like it gives me like if we were watching some comedy and the people in it were like, oh, and here's the trailer for the Minecraft movie and starring Jason Momoa, Jack Black is Steve, and like the computer animation that like totally looks super green screen because like how are you gonna get I guess like how were you gonna do it, and there's no other way you can do it, right, other
I
than that.
don't know, man.
like
Like,
but like the way it looks, dude, it looks so fake. Like I know that's like a weird criticism to lob at something, like to lob at a video game movie,
yeah.
but like it does. Like
You
it
know what
I
though?
look at
Like,
this and it doesn't look like a real movie.
you know what? Like, my son, he's a big Minecraft guy. All right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because
So
are the kids still into it? That's the
so
other thing, because that was like a big
oh
fad like
no,
a couple of years
dude,
ago.
huge.
Yeah.
Like
Okay. Yeah.
huge. Minecraft is still huge. Um,
Okay.
uh, he's very excited about it. So
Well, then there you go. That
yeah,
it worked. It did its job, right? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like it's, he's the audience. So he's excited about it. And I look at it and I'm like, oh, like this is the total teaser. So I'm waiting to see the full trailer in order to get a better semblance of what the hell is going on. Because I have no clue what is happening in that movie, but I do think that once we get a proper trailer, we can judge it a little better. In terms of the look, I'm like whatever about it because I've
Right.
seen Minecraft. It's like 8-bit blocky stuff. So
And
I'm like,
that's what I mean. Like, what were they supposed to do?
yeah,
I
exactly.
totally get it. I
Yeah,
get it because it's like,
exactly. I'm
what
like,
are you supposed to do? Yeah.
that's why I'm like, okay, this doesn't look 100% great, but also it's Minecraft and I don't know what to expect of this thing.
And
And
that's yeah. Like it's
listen, it's
I
gonna
don't
make a
know.
bunch of money in the box office
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
of
You're
the
right.
property itself. Like, I for one thought that this game was like long gone because it came out years ago. Years
That's
ago.
what I'm saying. Like I thought it was like it was a big fad in like the 20
The early
maybe
2000s, right? Like
no, like
the late
maybe like
2000s, right?
like 2010s more so, right? Like I think it was I don't think it's like a 20-year-old
Because
game because then kids these days wouldn't like it. Like it would have to be like it
it's
would have to
wild
be
though
like
because I even
2010s,
dude,
early 2020s.
I tried like playing it. I downloaded it on my phone, right, when it was a
Right.
mobile game, and I was like, "I don't know what the hell is going on here,
Yeah,
man."
it's literally you craft like you're not crafting mines. You're crafting like your little things. Like you're the Steve guy and you go
Yeah,
through and
and
like
you're building a
you
world,
hit
right?
blocks with your axe. Yeah, and then to like mine materials to build other things and like yeah, like it's become this whole thing like you
Yeah,
said and
like, I hear my
I
kids, like, saying, "Hey, like, can you give me some sticks? I need some ore." And I'm like,
yeah, it's stuff
"What?"
like that. Yeah, like and it's like, well, whatever the kids are into, I'm glad they like it. Like it's better than, at least they're not in a game like shooting people or something, right? So it's like, like
Yeah,
you're not playing
yeah.
Call of Duty, so if you want to just go around and mine stuff, okay, that's fine,
I'm surprised
whatever.
they haven't made a
That's
Call of Duty movie, right? That's
well,
wild,
because
right?
it's probably because like army movies exist, so it's like, what are you gonna do, right? Like you can't, like you're just gonna do Saving Private Ryan, but call it video games,
Yeah, they would definitely do that. I'm surprised they
yeah.
haven't. Like like, dude, you know how much money there would be in a modern warfare movie? Dude, like,
That's
what?
that's true. You put like a who's like a good actor for that kind of thing, like a general kind of
You
like
put
a
Glenn
Jake
Powell in it.
Gyllenhaal. Yeah, yeah. You
Call of
put
Duty. He's a Call of Duty star, you know? Like,
yeah, put some like you
but then
need.
just make it really really like patriotic and like, he's the
That's what I'm
hero.
saying.
He's the American hero. Fucking Delta Force style, bro, right?
Yeah, like you need that or like a John Cena, like someone who's like, yeah, like who can we put as like a red-blooded American hero for Call of Duty Modern Warfare the movie,
Oh
So
man.
like yeah.
Listen, one day, again, I'm really surprised it hasn't happened, especially with
it's
all the actors and cinematic stuff that
you're right.
like all the cutscenes do and all that stuff they've been doing with that
You're right.
game.
There's like a story in those games. So
A very short one these days, unfortunately.
I know because
That's why I stopped playing Call of Duty because I was a big campaign
it's all
guy.
multiplayer now.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
was a
like
huge campaign guy, huge story mode guy, and then I would just play the game. And as the years gone by, the campaign got shorter and shorter, and my time playing the game was shorter and shorter because I don't like the multiplayer stuff.
yeah, because
So
then
I'm
like
like,
in the
oh
movie,
man,
all you would need to do is do one of those like first person view scenes where you just see behind like the gun or whatever, and then
yes,
show
exactly.
show someone camping out of like a waiting for to take a shot or something like
Which movie that we saw recently had this really cool sequence
was it
where like
was it Monkey Man? Was it
was
Monkey
it
Man?
Monkey
Like
Man?
I remember Stairs with Monkey Man because Monkey
And like
Man
a
had a
first
really good
person view,
stair fight.
right? Like
I want to
he
say it
dropped kicked
was
somebody from the top flight of the stairs, and then it was like a
yeah
fight.
it
It
was
was really
something like
cool.
that. It
I
was
think it was Monkey Man.
I think it was Monkey Man because Monkey Man had a lot of cool stuff in it. Go watch Monkey Man. This is like a so speaking of animal men, right? So we get the
Good
teaser.
segue there, right?
Yeah. Speaking of animal men, we get the teaser for Wolfman, which is the Leigh Whannell Universal Monster next movie reboot thing that he's got working on.
Oof.
And so it's so funny that before the teaser came out, they revealed like the Wolfman itself at like Universal Studios. They're doing
Quote
their Halloween.
unquote text, quote unquote, right? Until we see
Yeah,
it
yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah, they're doing their Halloween park at the Universal Studios or whatever, and they revealed Wolfman. And it's funny, that was our first impression of it. So Arturo and I were talking off the air about it, and it's a rough looking first impression. Thankfully, the teaser's not that bad. Like the
Yeah.
teaser, I'm really
Like
into it because
the
it looks like a
movie,
small story, right?
like
Like
yeah,
a
exactly. The story and the movie look solid, and that's what I expected from Lee Whannell. Like
yes.
this is what we got in Invisible Man. We got a really small scale, solid story, right?
That's
That
true.
had these
It was like a one versus one the
yes,
entire
right?
time.
And it
Yeah.
had these like crazy elements that were added into it, to make it that, Invincible Man stuff. But like Invisible Man. But this one, like the story looks good. But let's talk about that first look text.
Right.
I said earlier when you were talking about it, quote unquote, because like I just can't believe
You
that
can't believe that's it, right? Yeah.
that's what it looks like. Like, I really cannot because, like, looking at the teaser and the actor, right, the main actor, I'm like, this doesn't look a thing like the actor. Like, usually the Wolfman, our standard vision of the Wolfman is an actor covered in like wolf hair and stuff like that. I
Right.
think Jack Nicholson's version of the Wolfman was my favorite look because it had his, you could still it still resembled him very well, but then it had just these features that were like wolf-like. It had the teeth and the paws, but it wasn't all furry hair stuff,
Yeah.
like Benicio.
Wolf
You
is a
know,
good movie. Go see Wolf. That's kind of what I thought
yeah,
about immediately too, right? I
yeah.
was
Wolf
like,
is a
yeah,
good
I
movie.
kind of
Yeah,
want to see Wolf again. Yeah.
Benicio del Toro played the Wolfman in the. I forgot who
Oh,
directed that one.
that's another good one.
Yeah,
That's the funny thing about this whole thing, right? Is like you're bringing up all these older ones, but I mean the werewolf movies we've gotten have been pretty
they're not.
good. I can't lie,
That's one
right?
of the
Like
few
you,
Universal
yeah,
monsters that actually has a success being translated by other, writers and directors. Like,
yeah,
we go back to American Werewolf in London, right? We go to Dog Soldiers, to Wolf, to Benicio del Toro in the Wolfman remake, which I thought was a pretty solid story.
yeah,
Um, there's just been a lot of good iterations of werewolf stuff. Silver Bullet, is another one that comes to mind. So it is a challenge because it's not like you're tackling the Invisible Man. You know what I mean?
right.
So this has to have a transformation in it because of the nature of the story, maybe, right? So that's what I'm curious about. I'm curious
That
about
well,
how that
that's the thing.
happens, right?
Yeah, because like I'm wondering if Invisible Man is in like the same universe, like
Yes.
adjacent.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that's going to be the bend then, because you know how there it was like sci-fi enhanced to be like the monster. So
Yes.
like I'm guessing it's going to be something like that here, and that's why we get the design that we eventually get, because maybe it's like a I don't know, gene splicing or like some kind of disease that makes him that way, or
It
like
has to be something
it's gonna
medical,
be
I think, right?
yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
like
the angle. Like like it's not
because
gonna
like
be the traditional
even
like
in the
curse
trailer,
or
right?
anything
Like
like that.
you see the daughter asking the mom, "Oh, what's wrong with daddy?" And she
Yeah,
says,
I
"Oh, like he's
it's
sick." So she knows something is going on, right?
yeah,
I'm very very curious as to how this is going to go down because um going back to the look of this thing that we got in that teaser, it just doesn't feel right,
right,
But
right.
again, like we don't know exactly. Again, that looked like it was a dude in a mask, right? Like it looked
Right.
very like,
And maybe because I'm hoping it's because it was right, and
yes,
it's because it's the theme park one, right, and it's like
yes.
during the
It's
day,
the theme
so
park
like
version of the Wolfman, right?
maybe like in the full movie under proper lighting and like full theatrical budget makeup, like maybe it'll look better.
I'm just
I'm
curious about that move though. That's a weird like a weird marketing move to do, to
Yeah,
expose the
to reveal your
monster like
Wolfman
that. Yeah,
before your movie does,
I'm
right, and
curious how Lee Whannell felt about that.
it probably wasn't his choice.
No, it wasn't his
Universal
choice. That's what I'm
saw that
saying.
they
I'm curious about his
yeah,
thoughts.
yeah, it's like Universal saw that they have another monster movie coming, one of their classics, and naturally they're like, "All right, well,
Let's
let's
pimp
do
it out for
something with
Halloween,
this."
right? Pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
Yeah. But speaking of
Before the movie is coming,
yeah,
and
and speaking of movies that are coming out soon, right?
yeah,
Just
for
in time.
Halloween.
Yeah.
Speaking of pimping out for Halloween, we have
Speaking of pimping out for Halloween.
we have the newest trailer for Smile 2, which is good because I think Smile 2 is now going to be the one we see every week when we go to the movies.
Yeah, it's not gonna
Uh,
be Don't Speak, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Speak No Evil no
right
more.
now it's been Speak No Evil, and I bet I was joking with Arturo. I'm like, yo, I bet when we see Speak No Evil, we're gonna see the trailer for Speak No Evil before it because it's been that kind of movie, So I think Smile 2 is going to slot right in there because I've also been seeing that Smile 2 trailer a lot with everything. So
The
this is
first one,
all to
right? The first
say,
one with everything, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, this is all to say. I'm glad that we got a new one, and
Better one
I'm,
too.
yeah, a much better than the first one.
Yeah.
Like I get why they called that first one a teaser, even though it
Yes.
was like
It's quite
2 minutes
long.
already, right? Yeah,
Even though it's more like an appetizer, than
yeah, yeah.
an amuse-bouche, as they say, or a little hors d'oeuvre.
Right.
But listen, like all that aside though, uh, this movie looks real solid. I really
Yeah.
like what Naomi Scott is doing in this movie. I'm excited for her. And for her performance, out of everything here. I'm excited to see, um, what the monster looks like again. I know it was practical in part one, and it was like just this really gnarly, awesome looking, huge, it's just crazy looking thing. Great design. So I'm
Yeah,
I'm I'm curious
that you get to see for like 2 minutes,
at the
like
very
maybe
end.
that, right? Yeah,
At
like
the Yeah,
you
like I
get
saw
through
it
the
more on the
whole
behind the
movie.
scenes stuff than I did
Yeah.
at the actual screen. But so I am hoping we get um some more of that because I think that was super interesting. I am curious to see how Naomi Scott plays out in this horror movie and her
Right,
performance because it looks like she takes a lot of the like of the anchor here. So I am very excited to see what happens because I saw Smile again with my my oldest and my wife, and you know, it's not bad. Like it's not a bad movie. I actually changed my rating.
really.
It was a, I think it was a 6 at first, and then
Yeah, because I remember that first time I was kind of like, there's a lot of it's not bad, but it's also
yeah,
not great, right?
yes,
Like
exactly. On second
it's
view,
there's a
it's
lot of
better.
drag.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's better on rewatch because
Okay.
you are now looking for things, and you're now
Yeah,
Y
because
yeah,
it's
on rewatch, you're
confirmed
looking to
now,
understand the
right?
character a little bit more, looking to understand the situation, and it works a lot better, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, because you confirmed it for now. Like, because when you're watching it the first time, it's one of those situations where you're like, "Oh, is this an actual thing,
Yeah.
or is it just her losing her mind?" And as we talk about all the time with these kinds of movies, it's like, yeah, those ones where it's all in their head is fine, but it's missing that little punch, right, of it
Yes,
being a real
exactly.
thing, right? And
Exactly.
so I guess, yeah, now that you've confirmed it's a real thing and you know it is, going back and watching it might be like, yeah, I like you said, it's a different
Yeah.
experience because you know it's a thing now. You don't,
Yes, because
there.
the curse hits differently because now you realize it's a curse and it's a real
Yes,
thing.
yes.
So, like, it hits better. So I am hoping now with Smile 2, since we have a
Now that
lot
we
more
all know
context and a
going
lot more
in,
exposition
right?
there,
Yes,
yes, it'll
yes,
be a better movie and not have to focus so much on, "Oh my god, is this, like, all real? Is she going crazy? Is she on drugs? Who knows?" You know what I mean?
right. It can just
Yeah.
get right to it. Yeah,
Yes,
like
exactly.
there's no like I guess we'll probably get a little of her trying to figure out how her way out of it, because that's kind of the deal, right? Like
Yeah.
it's kind of the whole, it's a new protagonist, a new person's going to try and get their way out of it, but like hopefully it's like a different way. Hopefully it's not like a, we'll see. I'm
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah, I
I'm
am
curious to see
curious.
it.
I am curious, and I know you guys will be curious. We'll have all that for you guys as we roll along through the fall. And
Yeah.
now, folks, it's time for our double feature presentation. And we are back, and we have a double feature presentation for you guys today. And it is an interesting one. It is an interesting pair of movies that we will discuss. And the first one is going to be none other than A24's new horror film, The Front Room, starring Brandy, who's back in movies. And unfortunately for her, Tex, she's back in this movie. Um, and
Yeah.
but one thing I gotta say before we break it down, it's not Brandy's fault, folks. But this one for me is a total stay away from it. And I will, tell you guys my feelings once I hand it over to Tex. Tex, what say you about the fart room? I'm sorry, the front room.
Yeah, so our traditional scale here at the morgue, it's once again everybody, it's pay for it, which is immediately go out and pay for it. Go to the theaters, watch it on demand as soon as you can, watch it streaming as soon as you can. That's what it's rush to see it. Wait for it is, oh, you can wait for it to eventually be out on something that you're gonna watch, and that's fine. Like you're not missing out on anything, and stay away from it. Self-explanatory, and this is all to say I fully agree with Arturo. This is a stay away from it. This is a I don't know. It's so I agree with Arturo too in the fact that it's not Brandy to blame, which is great because
Yeah.
Brandy's not the best actress, but she's also not like far from the worst. Like
No.
she's done some stuff that I really liked as a kid. Like she was in that Cinderella movie. I liked that as a kid.
Mhm.
She was in Know What You Did Last Summer too, which
Yep.
I also liked as a kid. Like it's like
Yes, I thought she was good in that movie.
she's very solid, and that's the thing. She's solid. She's not the best, but also it you look at the front room and you're like, yes, it's just poor material.
Yeah.
It's poor like everything. It's a poor
It really
story.
is. It really
Like
is poor material. Like it's
yeah,
literally shitty material, right?
yeah, like it's quite literally shit material. And like, you can on paper, you can see why like Brandy would be like interested in something like this, right?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
she's the lead. It's an interesting story on paper on the outside. It's A24. We've talked about in the past about how they want to branch out into more general things, and I guess this is the result. This is like it's literally like only in theaters because of A24,
Yeah,
and
this didn't go through the proper vetting process that they
it,
usually for
it
movies do.
really it really did it because this seems like at best it seems like a direct to streaming thing.
Yeah.
At worst it's like a really bad Lifetime movie. Like it's
Yeah.
like it's just it is not horror, first of all, which is wild because like you see the way it's marketed, right? And you saw the both ways it was marketed. You saw it was the one that's more serious in
Yeah.
tone, in the whole
Yeah.
like, oh, we're bringing this lady into this house, she might be the devil or whatever. And then you see the more MTV movie tone where it's like, oh, the music's playing and Brandy saying like, she's saying her big one liner and she's popping off, and you're like, oh, okay. And then to get the final movie has none of that. Like
It's
it's
like,
got
where
none
is
of
it?
the
Where did
it's
it
got
go?
none of the interest in it, right? Like it's
It's
just kind
Tremble
of
back.
yeah, it's
There's none. None. And it's very
that's
upsetting though. Because
yes.
like there are elements here that you wish to kind of find out more of, and you want some more expansion of certain things because certain things are interesting, right? Like the whole premise that we got from the teaser and from the trailers was that this woman was like a Solange, right? Who is the mother-in-law of Brandy's character. Belinda in this movie. She moves in after her husband's father, dies, and the request was to, have Solange move in with them, and she gave them all their money, all that stuff you see in the trailers, right? But then
Right.
the trailers push this angle, like this woman is a witch or some occult stuff or some religious nut
Yeah, because
or
she's
some like
like in the
crazy demon hell
trailer.
lady, you know?
Right, yeah, because in the trailer, you get the whole, oh, well, she believes like the spirit flows through her and it's like Jesus and stuff like that. And so, and in the movie itself, you see these moments where she's like speaking in tongues. You see other people like worship her and they're all like speaking in tongues and quite literally at one scene, like going like with their tongues, right? Like quite literally, like there's a whole and like it's
Yes.
funny because like you get all that and then it leads once again, that's kind of it, right? Like
Yeah.
it never does anything with the idea. First of all, like it never explores the horror of the idea. Instead, it's stuck within the real world problem of, oh, I'm living with my terrible mother-in-law who's like
Yeah. Who's
a
shitting herself the entire time because she's incontinent, you know what I mean?
that's the thing. It's either she is or isn't. That's never really kind of explained either. It's never like we never get a full confirmation of that she's faking it or whatever. Like she's there's a hint
Yeah.
that she's like shitting herself on purpose, and and because she like smiles after one of the things,
Oh,
and
yeah.
like she's literally like she's on purpose like rubbing her poop all over the walls and stuff like that. Like she's being as terrible as possible.
MESS, MESS.
Yeah,
Oh
and
god.
there's never like a confirmation that she's actually doing it on purpose. It's just kind of hinted at. And the thing is, like, it's so terrible because it focuses on that aspect of the thing. It focuses on the mother-in-law being just the worst person, and Belinda getting tired of it, rather than the more interesting stuff where we get teases of. And it's weird because we get these, right, Arturo, we get like these quote unquote artsy fartsy scenes where it's
Yeah.
like it feels real A24 in those scenes, right? Where it's
Yeah.
like we get these shots, like there's a conversation where it kind of zooms in on a mirror for whatever reason, and it's just like it never really goes anywhere because we
Yeah,
just kind of
like
look at the mirror and it's
yeah.
like, well,
Yeah.
okay, is it just to make the
Again,
conversation interesting or
there's
something?
artistic decisions made behind the camera that, as you said, Tex, go nowhere. And that's
Yeah.
unfortunate because, again, there are interesting things done in this movie that go nowhere. And one of the things that I definitely have to say on the cast is, if you guys have seen my review on Instagram, um, it's this movie, right? It was written by Robert Eggers' brothers, Sam and Max Eggers. One of them helped him write The Lighthouse, which is not my favorite Eggers movie, and one of them hasn't done anything in horror whatsoever, right? So this is
So
pretty
so it's real like nepotism stuff then, right? It's real like, oh
yes.
well, mom said you got yours out there, so mom said we can have a movie
Yeah.
too. Yeah, like,
Yeah, pretty
ew,
much. Like, the
yeah,
other
this
one
is
helped out as, like, he was, like, a PA or something. Legit, that's the credit that IMDb gives him.
that's
Um,
see that makes
so
this whole situation even worse,
yes,
Arturo. Like,
yes.
yeah,
This goes back to that Watchers conversation we had very, carefully, a couple of months back. And it's the same thing over here. It's like, yo, what are you doing? You know what I mean? It's like, what are you doing?
yeah,
There's nothing here that why is this on the screen? You know, how
yeah,
did
like
this get put on like on TV? It should be on TV. Why
no,
does
and
it
that's the
even get
thing,
put
right?
on the
Nothing
fucking big screen, man?
1000% Arturo. Nothing about this elevates it to big screen theatrical material. Like
Nothing.
nothing. And like I said, it stays within the grounded, oh, this lady's just a terrible house guest kind of thing. Because it's like we have these whole scenes where she's like crying over being accused of being a racist and all this other stuff. Like very, very real world problems kind of situation, right? But then we get these hints of like we get the hints of the spiritual stuff, and we get these scenes where like randomly she'll look like the the Mary or whatever, like just randomly, right?
Yeah,
And it's like,
just
and when this stuff happens, you're like, okay, because it doesn't go anywhere. Like Arturo said, like it never really fully explores that stuff despite hinting at it. And it's like, well, you don't know if it's like a curse that she's putting on the house because it never really goes that route. It never
yeah,
really
nothing.
does
Yeah,
anything with
it
it.
never
Like
goes that route, and it's so long too. It's funny
it
because this
it
thing is based
feels
off a short as well,
yes, and you can
and
tell because like right, like
it
the
has
story
no
just
legs to
kind of
stand on, dude. Like,
yeah,
it really
like
has no legs to stand on. Like, after it shows you the premise, that's it. Like it doesn't have anything else like branching out to fully flesh this thing out properly. And that's the mistake. For example, that's what Night Swim did earlier this year, right?
right,
That
yes,
you had a short that was actually pretty darn decent, and then you did nothing to really support the idea, you
yeah,
know? And it's the
and
same thing here.
it sucks because at least Night Swim had like a solid cast, right? And
Yeah,
you know,
that's
and it's
true.
funny. Last week we were talking about Afraid, right? And how Afraid felt like a very long 90 minutes. This movie felt even longer, and it's
Yeah.
like 80 something minutes, right? And it's
Was it really
eh,
80 something minutes?
yeah, it was like an hour, and like it's
Oh,
like
dude, it felt like
20
2
something.
hours, like,
Yeah,
legit.
it really felt like a really long time, and it's funny because this one just doesn't have the cast. Like it's like we mentioned before, it's not Brandy that's the issue. Thankfully, like
Yeah,
she does the best of what she can. Like she's honestly not bad. It's
yeah.
just she's not good enough to like salvage this movie because like her husband is terrible in both character and like performance,
I
right? Like
agreed,
where like I didn't
agreed.
like him
Yeah, me
in
neither.
any aspect because you know it was one of those character types that I thought we kind of gotten over. Like because in other movies we've gotten over the phase of like, oh, the husband doesn't understand or care to like
Yeah,
really involve himself.
yeah.
In other franchises by this point, like the husband would have been involved, or like an imaginary would have just got shipped off away from the movie so we never thought about him, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
exactly.
But here it's just like another husband going, "Oh, well, I don't believe you," blah 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 blah, and that's like the conflict, and it's like, yo, like I don't know, that stuff annoys me. 'Cause I thought we were past that stuff, right? And
But then like, it's weird how, like, then all of a sudden he like, that scene where the baby gets bit, right?
right,
Like, he's like, "Okay, that's it. I had it." Now, like, this is where everything just ends, and this is where I finally step up and become a man and, stick
and
with
then
my wife
he
here,
blames
you
he
know?
blames his wife first. Like
Yeah, which
that's
is
the other
like
thing too. He blames her
"What?
first. He blames Brandy first, and he's like, "Yo, like,
Why'd
did
you
you
bite
hurt
the
our baby?"
baby?" And then, like, why
And
would you
she's
even blame her for that?
yeah, and she's like, "Well, look at it. It's missing teeth. Are you kidding me?" Like, so and that's the climax of the movie. Like Arturo said, this is the climax of the movie. Like that the baby gets hurt, and they're like, "All right, well, we're done with Solange." And so the movie ends with Solange herself going, "Oh, I wish I could die." And then, like in the next morning, she's revealed to be dead. And then everybody's moving on. It's a fun little ending, or not fun. It's just everyone's moving on. It's a good ending. And then the last reveal is that Brandy herself, Belinda or Belinder, like
Belinda,
actually
Belinda.
killed the mother-in-law by suffocating her, and like
Good for you.
it's such like a lifetime movie ending, it's
It
such like
really
a
is, though.
nothing ending, like it really like good, like it's one of those moments where I'm like, oh, I guess it's a good for her kind of moment, but
Yeah. But it's like,
it's not something
okay.
the movie, yeah, it was really
It's
it,
like you
like
could
it's
have
like,
done this in
oh,
30 minutes, you know?
you really could have did that in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
This would have been a solid hour. Maybe
Yeah.
hours too much, like, but it
Out.
probably would have been like a nice little
A
hour long
nice
movie.
a nice 45-minute short, dude.
Maybe
Boom.
less like literal shit, because that stuff I'm like, yo, did we
It was
need
just
somebody
so
like
much,
shitting
right?
herself
It was just
scenes?
like
Yeah,
like, is this supposed to be a comedy skit, you know?
yes,
Like, because
it's
it just happened all the time, and, like, Brandy, like, literally spends the entire time cleaning shit. Like, that's her
Like,
role in the movie. Like, you're
yeah,
just cleaning shit
second
the
half of the
entire time.
movie, it's literally just cleaning shit. Second half of the movie, and it's like, all right,
Yeah, it
this is
was,
how we're spending our time. Yeah, instead of like cool demons or something. Like this is how we
nothing,
spend our time. Like
nothing. That's why I call
yeah,
it the fart room.
yeah, it's the fart room. Yeah, and literally because there's like a cartoonish fart noise in the movie
It
too. Like
really
it's just
is.
and
Yeah, when she bends
it's
over and just fucking farts, right? Yeah, it's
yeah,
fucking gross.
yeah. I mean, that's the movie, people.
That's it.
So
Like, the
it's
bowel
yeah,
movement is the scariest thing you will see in this movie, folks.
yeah,
Anyways,
yeah.
um, stay away from this one, please. Don't waste your time with
Right.
this movie unless you wanna see an old lady shit herself for about, what, an
I
hour
mean,
and 20 minutes,
that's
right?
really what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, on to better things here. And next up in our double feature presentation, we have none other than the much anticipated sequel, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. Tex, I'm gonna go to you first. What say you? Stay away from it, wait for it, or pay for it?
Man, okay. So, I will say wait for it. We'll dig into what we're talking about later, but I did like it, and it's because like I was thinking about this. It took me a while to figure out why I liked it because a lot of it does drag. The movie does take a long time. This is another one where it's like it feels like it was a long movie despite it not really being a long movie, but it's one of those things where the Tim Burton kookiness, your mileage is going to vary. You know, if I haven't seen a kooky Tim Burton thing in a long time, and I think that helped with the nostalgia of it. Like I'm not really nostalgic for Beetlejuice itself because I'm not a huge fan of Beetlejuice that movie, but I think I'm more nostalgic for the Tim Burton style in that like a real filmmaker doing film making
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
is I like on a technical sense, right? Like
Yeah.
I feel like a real film buff nerd like when I talk about it on that sense, but
It's
like
true though.
when you see the movie, you see the visuals in it, you see practicals, you see like the lighting, you see a lot of fun techniques with like playing with stuff. You see a lot of like there's a lot of CG that's animated at like a different frame per second, so it
Mhm.
looks like stop motion. So
Yeah.
like it really mirrors the original one. So it's like it's all that cool stuff I enjoyed. And that's where I will leave it at that. Arturo, what
Yeah.
do you think?
Yeah, I'm also at a wait for it as well.
Yeah,
I really spent some time breaking it down because just to put it out there, I am not a fan of the Beetlejuice character.
right.
And on rewatch of the original, I became a lesser fan of the Beetlejuice character. As a dad, as a girl dad, and as a,
Yeah,
a decent human being,
because
I
he's like
don't like the
way
character.
creepy, right? He's
Yeah,
like he's
he's
super
legit
creepazoid.
despicable. You know, he's
Yeah,
a despicable character. He's a creepo. He's a pedo on top of that, unfortunately.
yeah,
And it just comes off really, really bad. Upon seeing it with adult intelligent eyes, you know?
right.
Um, so walking into this thing, I was like, let's see what happens, right? It was tough to kind of separate my bias because of my recent watch of the original with the family, which again, like this movie was PG and there was just a lot of material in it that was just not PG.
Yeah,
And
it's 80s PG, right? And so
but
that's
that's pushing it because Gremlins is 80 PG. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, and
yeah, this is 80s, like, PG-13 in my opinion, like, there was a
yeah,
lot of language and situations and stuff like that that, I was like, "Oh, crap."
and it's funny because this new one kind of has the same issue, right?
Yeah.
And like it's like the thing I told you off the air, Arturo, for the buddies at home, it's a 2024 version of an 80s family movie. So like you get a lot of like the more blue humor and a lot of like the raunchy stuff,
Yeah.
but it's nowhere near the level as that original one,
No,
right?
they definitely
It's
toned
nowhere
it down. Yeah.
like stuff like the lines. I remember we were talking about the trailer, and there was a line from Jenna Ortega that you were concerned about, like in the theaters,
They
right?
took it
Or
out.
in they did. Yeah, because instead she's like, oh well, when you're on your third child and in your second divorce or
Yeah, second
whatever,
divorce,
and
instead of saying, banging your yoga teacher or whatever it was she said in the
yes,
trailer, which I was
yes,
like,
and
yo, I saw that as a teaser. I was like, and my kids were, I was showing my kids, and I
yes,
was like, what?
yes,
Are you kidding
yes,
me right now? So I was like, okay. So I am glad they definitely changed that because listen, like, a lot of the audience, this past weekend for Beetlejuice were kids because
yeah, saw a
people
ton of
who
kids.
grew up watching Beetlejuice have children now, and they brought them all to the fucking theater, dude. And watching this thing, I was like, oh, like this is not really where you want to bring
Yeah,
the
because
little one.
there's some stuff in it on top of that. There's like the soul sucking joke
Yeah,
where he's like, oh well, tell me about it. I know all about the
I
soul
know,
sucking.
I know. I was like,
And
oh my
then
god,
yeah, the soul sucking joke. There's a sex scene in it, even though
yes,
it's like it's not traditional in the way you would think,
but
but
it's
like
still longer
but
than you want it to be in
yeah,
that kind of aspect.
it's yes, exactly. Like it's played off jokingly, but it lingers on it for way longer than you'd hope, right?
Yeah,
You're like, all right, let's move on.
yeah,
You did the joke already, right? But it's stuff like that. There's a lot of little things like that like on the one hand, I totally understand the whole, oh man, you got to be cautious around children, but me speaking as me, I'm like, oh, that's the nostalgic part of it, where I'm like, oh yeah, you get to be a little, you get to do a little that little spice, right? And
yeah.
because and that's part of the 80s nostalgia of it. This is why I'm like, once again, I go back to the like I don't mind this, where I'm like, yeah, I'm like I was having a little fun with it, but unfortunately that's kind of it, right? Like that's kind of like, in terms of having fun, it's really just the fun with like the visual stuff.
Yes. So my enjoyment of this movie, as Tex was saying, came purely from a film nerd um aspect. Like I really,
Yeah.
really enjoyed all the technical stuff done in this movie, man. I love the shots, I love the colors, I love the tones, I love all the practical effects and the makeup used for all the different characters and the different kinds of dead people you see. I really enjoyed that. I thought that was a complete success. And I kind of like, I was a little upset because I wanted more of that. I think it was a missed opportunity to kind of stay in the dead world some more. There was a lot of good things done in the dead world where I thought the film was more successful than bringing it back up to the living. And for instance, like there's this whole situation where Jenna Ortega, her character, gets swindled into transferring her life to another one. Which again, this has a bunch of little plots that don't you know that
There
get thrown
there are
at
a
you.
ton of
Yeah,
them. There are a
yeah,
ton of them in this movie. Like a ton of little plots.
yeah. That was one of them for sure.
Yes, yes.
And then that situation brings you to this whole kind of like DMV, like airport immigration, like debts people space, which is like really cool. You're like, yo, this is really neat.
Yeah,
And I want to see
because
more of that stuff.
in the original it was just that
The office, yeah,
second, yeah, it was just
yeah,
that secretary lady, that office, the
the
boss
waiting room as
lady.
they call it, yeah.
Yes, yes. And like, so this movie expands that more. You have stuff like the soul train that'll take you to like,
I like the
the
Soul
great
Train.
beyond. And it's
I had fun
like,
with
yeah,
that.
like
Yeah.
those, like Arturo said, those expansions on the world, and those are great because then all the time, like throughout the movie, throughout that dead world, it's littered with different people who died. And this
Mhm.
is where you get that, like, you get that classic Burton of like the macabre humor of
Yes.
like, yeah, where it's like, oh, okay, here's a guy who drowned to death. It's a brutal, like, yeah, he drowned to death, and like one of the, like, he was a magician or whatever,
A
but
magician,
like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, he's like stuffed in a little glass box that's like filled with water, and it's like, yeah, it's brutal stuff, but like, like you get to look at it like
It
it's just a
works.
thing that they
It
made, right?
works.
Yeah,
It's super fun, yeah.
yeah, and it's just, this is all just practical stuff they threw in the background, like so they killed off uh
Principal Rooney, right?
yes, yes,
Charles.
yeah, they killed him off with like a CG stop motion scene of like showing what happened, but it's not that he drowned or whatever. He was like eaten in half by a shark,
by a
which was
shark.
like, which is a weird like, and that's the thing. Like,
But
that's the stuff I enjoyed,
it's
right? Where
weird,
I'm
but
like, yeah,
it's a
this is
great way to have him in the movie without showing the guy's fucking face, right? Because
yeah,
this guy's
yeah. I'm
been
like,
canceled, right? The actor himself, he's been canceled
yes,
because he's a creepo, right?
yeah,
So
and that's the fun way
yes,
to like use the
exactly. It's like we
character
don't have
because
to
it's like,
worry about his face. We have his body, but his face been eaten by a shark,
yeah,
and that works so
and it's
awesomely.
funny because yeah, because it's so funny because like it's humorous in that disrespectful way to the
Yes,
actor too, right? Like,
yes,
but
absolutely.
it's also just kind of kooky funny in that like everyone's just kind of like going along with it. Like everyone can hear him, he can see just
Yeah,
fine, you know.
yeah. He's having a
When
good time.
yeah, and we get a reunion later in the movie that's just kind of like, oh, look what happened to me, and they kind of just don't acknowledge like the missing the half the head kind of thing.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, which is great.
it's
Yeah.
that's part of the fun I love, right? Like it's like it gets fun like that, and then the only problem is once again, like Arturo said, there's a lot of stuff that goes nowhere. Like it's kind of front room esque in that way. Like the big bad in the scene in the trailers of Beetlejuice's ex wife,
Yeah,
right?
man. The gorgeous
She
Monica Bellucci. She looks great in
yeah,
this
it's
movie.
we get a great intro scene where she
Oh,
kind of like where she puts her body back together, and
one of the
it's
best
that's
scenes I've seen in a long time. It was awesome, and they did a
yeah,
great job with the CG there. Like, because you knew it was CG, but it just looked really good because of the tones and how everything else was shot. Like, everything just
yes,
blended well, and I loved how she was just, like, stapling herself back together again. And this is another reason, Tex, why I'm a little disappointed because this character gets such a grand entrance, right? And then
yes,
such a grand entrance and such a dismal ending. It's like she needed to be more present in this story because I feel she was the real threat here. She was soul sucking, like she was legit killing her way just to get to Beetlejuice, right? And
right.
the soul sucking looked so awesome, by the way, because it's like squeezed up like the bodies, like in this rubber kind of like skin thing. It was really dope looking. It looked really gnarly. Really well done stuff. That's why I wish her character had a lot more to do, especially in the climax, because I feel that this movie also drags a lot in the second act, right? And then when we get into that third act, it kind of just wraps up too quickly. And it's
Yeah,
a shame because it's a good climax, right?
yeah, like so full spoilers for Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. So in the climax of the movie, it's a wedding again, which is like I would get if you had a problem with it. I was just fine
Yeah,
because
I was fine with
this
it.
is a sequel, nostalgia, whatever,
Also, it
right?
was
Like,
fine. Like it worked with the story too, because
yeah, because he
Lydia was
still
supposed to get
wants
married too, right?
yeah, he still wants to marry her. And that's the
Yeah,
thing. Like it's very clear from the beginning of the movie. Like, and it's funny, like that he's been stalking her for like 20 years,
obsessing over
yeah,
Lydia
sending
since
her
forever.
visions of himself ever since the first
Yeah.
movie, which is yeah, that's very creepy, but it's a very on brand detail and it's
It's
something I
very
appreciated,
Beetlejuice.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
like
very like it's creepy like him, but at least like it's more lighthearted. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a cool detail. And so yeah, he tries to marry her again, and that's there's the whole climactic wedding scene. You know, during that the guy who's trying to marry her before that, Justin Thoreau, that's a whole other plot of like him
Yeah.
trying to quickly marry her, but he doesn't really believe in her shtick. But like he's one of those like that part felt dated because he's very like he speaks in that like therapist kind of tone of like, oh well, we have to do this in order to like, it's very like the political correctness
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
guy, and that's if stuff he's dated, and his whole plot was dated. Thoreau himself though,
He was
he
good.
was having fun, so
Yeah,
like
he
it's
was
not
good.
like his character was bad, but he was fun. This is all to say, like that's another plot that just kind of happens and kind of gets wrapped up before anything really happens. Like Catherine O'Hara,
She was
Delia
great.
Dietz,
She was
she
great.
honestly, I think it's wild, right? Like her and Michael Keaton kind of
Yeah.
like haven't lost a step in
Yeah.
terms of like the vibe, right?
Yeah.
Like they kind of
Absolutely.
immediately fell back into what these movies
O'Hara was
do.
fantastic, and I loved how they leaned more into her character,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
time around. Because like in the original, you get, you're just you're introduced to her. You
Yeah,
don't know what to expect from
she's
Delia,
like
right?
she's the wacky artist wife,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. But like now, like you have a seasoned, Catherine O'Hara pretty much doing like awesome comedy the entire time. One of my favorite
Yeah,
lines was um a segment where little Jane gives her the microbrewery stuff, right? And she was like,
yeah.
"Oh, is this for a tiny house?" And I thought that was just absolutely, dude. I was dying in the theater. I thought I was the only one like laughing.
Dude,
But it was an absolute like just hilarious moment that's something that she's done for years with the guys from Spinal Tap and like in Best in Show
yes.
and all those things. So that
Yes.
comedy moment there was just like so perfect for her. I was like, she's
Yeah,
amazing in this movie. I really like her
I
character.
I do think she's the best one. Like, because
Yes,
Michael Keaton's
absolutely.
great. Like,
Absolutely.
he's great as Beetlejuice, but like, I don't know. I really think she's the best
She
person in the
steals the
cast, right?
show, bro.
Yeah,
Like
like,
she's so
like
funny and
so
memorable, yeah, and full of
so.
life. And
Spoiler:
and
this
even her, yeah,
she
spoilers,
dies,
yeah.
right? Like,
Yes.
she dies. It is funny. It is like
Yes.
the funniest thing because the whole time, like she finds out she's dead, all that stuff. But like her final message to her daughter at the end was like, "Oh, you're gonna talk to him about the ass." They were like, "Oh, so you but like yeah, they were defanged."
They
And
were
like
defanged.
I was lied to about that. Like the whole
Yeah,
thing
she
where
was like, "Don't forget to get your money back, all right?"
yes, yes, and it's like she's so funny. She reunites with her husband in the afterlife, and it's like, oh, they're gonna go to the great beyond, all that stuff. But like, but her whole thing is she gets two small bites in her neck, right? And he's missing half his body, and she's like,
Yes.
well, look what happened to
It's like, "Look what
me.
happened to me," and I'm like and again, like, that's such a Moira moment from Schitt's Creek,
Yes,
which
yes,
is another brilliant character of O'Hara's, and I think, again, like, they realized how great of a career she's had, and like, "Yo, let's
that's what it
milk
was,
this
right?
for, like,
Yeah,
everything we can do," and I'm so glad they gave her all that screen time because, like, her character was, I think, like, the best in here, and as you mentioned, Keaton did a good job with Beetlejuice. I was a little bit disappointed with Jenna Ortega's character, but
yeah,
I think that's because of the story and how it's short, like like all those little
yeah.
plot
Because
R's. So there's not like, chance for her
it's
to
still
kind of
about
shine.
Lydia. Yeah, it's still
Yeah,
about Lydia,
yeah,
right? Like it's
yeah,
still very much Winona Ryder's movie, and like, and she's good in this too. Like that's the thing. It's like her whole awkward shtick, that got annoying in Stranger Things, perfect for Lydia, right? Like, it's
yeah.
like
This
yeah,
is
like
Stranger Things Lydia, not like
yeah,
not like Lydia from the '80s. Like
yeah.
this
This
is a
is
more like extroverted like Lydia, right?
yeah, and
So it's
so
different.
it works. It works for the context of the movie,
It
and
does, yeah.
that's the thing. And like it's Jenna Ortega too. Like she's a little disappointing in terms of performance and character. But I like I said, it's you blame the story, right? It had so much going on and so many people in it that like when it gets to the climax, once again, we say all this to wrap all right back around, and it's a cool scene. I do like it's a full use of Beetlejuice's powers because he's
Yeah.
fully unleashed. You get this whole scene, and I do like the song, and like it's another kooky song again, and it's doing all this stuff. But then it just kind of ends because a giant worm shows up and it eats, Monica and then the husband, and it's like, oh, okay. And then Beetlejuice is defeated. Everyone moves on, and it's like, well, all right, like it's
Yeah.
like a oh I guess we're ending now, but before I wrap up, shout out to Willem Dafoe.
He was
He's having
great too,
he's
dude.
having a great time
I
in this movie.
loved his character. Loved his
Yeah,
character so much. I think him and Catherine O'Hara legit were my standouts of this
yeah,
whole entire movie. I love their
I think so.
character. I loved the how they fully fleshed out Delia in this movie, and she was so great. Like just her, like in the artists, like in the gallery and stuff, and all her
Yeah,
art
we had
with
so much
her
of
art
like
on her, just
yeah, we're
very funny comedy stuff that very
yes,
subtle, and that as an adult I appreciate a lot more.
yes.
And yeah, just to wrap this up, I definitely think this is the better of the movies. Um,
You know what? Yeah, I
from
think
one and
so.
two. I had more fun with this one. I think downplaying Beetlejuice's creepiness was the way to go. Because like in the first one, he was just trying to get with freaking Gina Davis's character or Lydia or
he,
anyone
he's
or any
he's making
female.
he's making a lot of passes, and
Yeah,
it's like,
to any
yeah,
woman on
it's
screen. It was just very
yeah,
off-putting for me, honestly. So I'm really glad they toned that back, but still kept his creepiness, right? And I really loved how they called him a demon a lot because that's what he really is. So
yeah,
that kind of excuses quote unquote his behavior because he is a fucking demon. So his
yeah,
behavior should be despicable. It should be just like, out of pocket. But I think uh this is like a wait for it because it's story wise, there's not much there. But I understand for the fans who will go see this in theaters, it's gonna make a lot of money. This thing
yeah, and it's
it
and
was sold out
whenever
in a bunch of places. So
whenever it hits Max, it's gonna be number one, of
oh
course.
yeah,
Like whenever it,
it's coming in time for Halloween for sure.
yeah,
But
like
yeah, but yeah,
yeah,
folks,
for sure.
go check out the original Beetlejuice. It's playing on Max. Avoid the front room at all costs, and wait for Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. It's coming out on Max probably around Halloween during spooky
Yeah,
season.
yeah,
Yeah,
because the way these things turn around, right? These things turn around
super
so
quickly.
fast now.
Unless you're
Yeah,
Borderlands, right? Like it showed
yeah.
up under 2 weeks or something like that,
It
right?
came out in the same month, dude. It hit and it's already
Yeah,
streaming. Like it's
yeah.
that's gross.
I
Yeah.
gotta catch it. You know what? We gotta see it and see what's up with that
We're
thing,
gonna
right?
have to stream it now,
Yeah,
right? We're gonna
absolutely.
yeah,
And thank you
absolutely.
so much, folks. This has been episode 208 of The Morgue, the official Corpsefeed podcast. Once again, I am Arturo Padilla, the guy behind the face. And with me always on this journey is Mr. Nick Valdez. A big shout out to Delvirus for all the artwork you've seen in front of you throughout the years. And a big shout out goes to you guys for listening. We know you guys are checking it out and we love it. We have 207 of these episodes for you anywhere you get your streaming, and we have at least 100 of them on YouTube. Go to the YouTube page, go like, subscribe, and share there. Hit the bell, hit the thumbs up, leave a comment, leave a rating anywhere you get your podcast. We would highly appreciate it. And remember, folks, it is a scary world out there, but we are here to walk you through it.